For my team, we were very concerned about the impact we're having on human lives. So we approached this with a set of principles. We started building them out, and it's rather extensive. It started with my Cortana work. It now extends into the personality chat work that I'm doing today for bot developers. And this is only 4 examples, but I want to go over them briefly for you here. So digital transparency, I'm going to go over each in detail. Digital transparency, don't create opportunities for bad behavior. Strive for inclusivity. Of course, inclusive design is huge in the industry and very important to Microsoft. And embrace sensitivity. So digital transparency means that we make sure people know they're dealing with a digital experience 100% of the time. So early on in our work, we put a stake in the ground and said, reject the Turing test. We do not want to prove the worth of our work through duping humans into believing that they're dealing with a human. Don't perpetuate bad behavior. It may not come as any surprise to anyone here, but when we get this data, we see a lot of ugly behavior. I mean, the darkest behavior that humans can come up with. Racism, sexism, gender stereotyping, abuse, all kinds of things. And we know that because in an interaction model that's conversational, a non-response is a response. So you have no choice but to come up with something. So we had to come up with a strategy on how to deal with this. We can't get into the game of shaming people. Microsoft cannot tell people what they can and cannot say. However, it's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that we're not creating products that can perpetuate bad behavior. So we came up with a principled approach that essentially said, we understand what you're saying, we're not going to go there, and there's nothing interesting here. We didn't want to create a clever way to say that because we didn't want to turn it into a parlor game that we get people doing terrible things into their devices at cocktail parties. Inclusivity, that's a huge one. And I call out humor here because it's my personal belief that a lot of us make mistakes with regards to inclusion when we're trying to be funny. We're just trying to be funny. So we really have to dial back and really keep above our desire to make people laugh and have joy. We have to keep an eye on this idea of, are we marginalizing anyone? And here's an example that's also kind of how we deal with the darker side. If we see something that says you are fat, and if we dismiss it, or if we make a joke about it, or we get defensive, we are empowering body shaming in that moment. So we chose the path of just hitting it head on. You're right. And finally here, embracing sensitivity. We also see, besides all this darkness, we see people sharing very personal things about themselves, secrets, and they want opinions and things that we can't provide. But just because we can't provide them any help or assurance or a pat on the back, what we can do is acknowledge in our writing that we hear them and that it's okay to express these things in this experience.